I'm Dr. Ajayshankar Jagadeesh, Postdoctoral Research Fellow at the National University of Singapore. The topic of my presentation is Life as a Young Researcher. Delivering an orientation address is a great responsibility. We shouldn't bore you with too much technical details and we shouldn't scare you with too much reality. I'm simply here to show some of the life possibilities. One such possibility is the academic and research career. Before going to the topic on life as a young researcher, let me give a brief background on my research motivation and contributions. Major motivation of my work is to prevent the road accidents, in particular related to wet weather accidents. It has been reported by World Health Organization that nearly 1.35 million road accidents are reported each year. Among that, nearly 25% of crashes are weather related. We as a pavement engineers are also responsible for these accidents. This epidemic is predicted to increase due to the climate change conditions as well. This is my work on the development of pervious pavement skid resistance simulation model. Significance of the study is that we can predict the frictional performance of various pavement materials through the simulations, thereby avoiding full-scale field construction and testing. Novelty of my study is the importance of various digital image processing algorithms and the development of a new thresholding algorithm. I do not want to bore the first years with the technical details on the very first day. We'll discuss on a different occasion. These are some of the recent contributions in research journals and conference proceedings. My latest work on skid resistance modeling was awarded the best paper for methodological development in an international conference in Japan. Let's dive into the topic. As we all know, the population growth has been small and very little for 1,000 years, till 1550, 1600 maybe. This is actually the time period for great researchers like Isaac Newton, Galileo, Kepler, and so on. Later, you can see a rapid and sudden spike after 1900s. This is when research as a job opportunity spiked. It's actually the turning point for research. Lots of inventions and theories started coming up. Now, there are almost like 1,500 researchers in 1 million inhabitants. That's almost 0.12% of population. Let's look at an interesting curve. Here, the x-axis represents the year and y-axis represents the number of publications per year in an exponential trend. In this, green and red color represents different databases for publications. One is the InSpec and the other one is Thomson Reuters Web of Knowledge. We can clearly see an exponential growth in the publications. We can in fact witness a century-long publication avalanche. Number indicates the number of the quantity of problems in our society as well as advancements in research over the past. Let's look at this. What is the real need for research? Life would have been totally different if no one wanted to do any research. It improved everyone's life, everyone's safety, everyone's comfort, everyone's lifespan. Think about vaccines for COVID. We are eternally grateful for the COVID researchers. Today's webinar will be more about the philosophy. So what really is PhD, Doctor of Philosophy? In general, it's like the most difficult treasure hunt you may ever experience. You will start with a basic problem, followed by multiple smaller ones. So in Latin, they call it like PhD as to teach and love of wisdom. End result of any PhD is fruitful, but you need to go through a vigorous learning procedure. Academia is the sector where you will never get rid of challenges. This is the best place for people who likes to face challenge in their day-to-day life. It has several positive things like recognition for finding something which seemed impossible at the beginning. It makes us disciplined, makes us think and ask several questions about various things. Now, let's imagine a circle that contains all of a human knowledge. By the time you finish your elementary school, you know a little bit. By the time you finish your high school, you may know a little bit more. With a bachelor's degree, you gain a specialty. Master's degree deepens that specialty. Reading journal articles takes you to the edge of human knowledge. Once you are at the boundary, you focus. You push at the boundary for a few years, and one day the boundary gives way, and the small dent you made was called a PhD. Of course, the world looks totally different to you now, but don't forget the bigger picture. Again, like a little bit knowledge in the compared to the whole available knowledge. And one more thing is like the blue or green color, it's not up to scale. We are not learning like 1/20th of the whole human knowledge in elementary school or high school. So it's not up to the scale. Okay, next is like, this is actually the picture of Galileo, who lived in 1600s. He's considered as the father of modern science and termed as polymath. He is well known as an astronomer, physicist, mathematician, engineer, and a philosopher. These days, we can hardly find a person like him. We call him as polymath. Now, look at the circles on the right. One on the left is the knowledge in the 17th century. One in the middle is the current knowledge. And one on the right is the knowledge in 25th century. As the time grows, we will become specialized in one particular area. And it will be quite impossible to become a polymath nowadays. One more thing, as the circle of knowledge expands, we can witness the increase in the circumference of darkness surrounding it. So there will always be a scope for all of us to conduct research in any area. Next is an interesting curve. We call it as Kruger effect. In this, the x-axis represents the knowledge or skill in any field. It can vary from none to an expert. Y-axis represents the level of confidence. It can vary from 0% to 100%. When you learn a subject first, you will feel like you know everything. That's what people call as mouth stupid. After analyzing for some time, after studying for some time, doubts face. Then you may feel like you don't know anything. That's what people call as valley of despair. Then, with continuous effort, you will be enlightened in that area. But there will always be something new to learn. Hence, we cannot reach 100% easily. In your undergrad, you will study and learn a limited amount of knowledge in various fields. But when you go for a master's or your PhD, you will gain an in-depth knowledge in a specific subfield. In a broader perspective, when the depth of study increases, area of expertise decreases. Next is an important research philosophy. I have shown a hourglass on the left and the flowchart on the right. When you look at the hourglass, on the top, you can see a problem or a challenge comes from the society and goes back to the society as a contribution. In this, we always have to look for two important things. One is the significance and another one is the novelty. If either of the one is missing, our research is not making any change. Even in research, we have to be an artist, an engineer, and an executor. Next is something more on research philosophy and methodology. We call it as research onion. Process of research is similar to peeling an onion. At first, we have to decide on the type of philosophy. It can be positivism, critical realism, pragmatism, and so on. Second layer is the research approach. It can be like inductive, deductive, and so on. Third is the methodological choice. Are you going to do a qualitative research or a quantitative one or a combined one? Next is an important one, research strategy. Are you going to conduct an experimental study or a survey-based study or a case study, archival research, or many more? Recently, we have included one more strategy, which is like computational one, simulation-based study. In the past, people used to do like an archival-based research. Then they started doing the case study. survey-based, experimental, and now recently like simulations. Next one is the time horizon. It can be like again cross-sectional or a longitudinal one. Then it's the data collection and analysis. Final thing was like most important one, which is writing. Write whatever the thing which we have done and publish it. So the first step in research is to find the problem, find the challenge. It should be a significant one. We cannot take anything which is useless. You may come up with multiple problems, but the significance of the problem directly affects the research quality. So always pick the most difficult one or the most needed one. There will not be much information at the time when you start your research, but you will gain an in-depth knowledge and experience. It can be considered as the best one and can be implemented to the real life as well. In research, there are two important parameters to be successful, which are innovation and courage. Innovation, we call it as novelty, is the utmost important segment in a project. Without that, it is difficult to convince the jury, examiners, reviewers, and mostly our PhD advisor. To carry out the research or to pursue a PhD, you need courage because you don't know what the end results are. We do not know if the expected outcomes comes or not. We need to be prepared for every outcome, every possible outcome, and work tirelessly to achieve success. Most important thing in research is to publish research articles. In fact, high quality research articles. 10 years back or 20 years back, the trend was to publish multiple papers. Now the trend has changed from quantity to quality. So we cannot compare ourselves with people from our previous generations. We should also know that there are multiple researchers doing the same work. It's always based on first come, first served. But it is not an easy job to publish a paper. The paper will undergo a rigorous peer review process before it gets accepted and published. Moreover, it takes several months for a paper to get published after submission as well. As like any other job, academia has both pros and cons. Pros are we can work as per our wish. Even though there are like no deadlines, we end up working every day, not with compulsion, but with passion. You need to work daily to update yourself as well as compete with others. Most important thing in academia is we need to follow our own deadline, even though there is nothing imposed. We need to keep ourselves updated and work daily to complete the project. Paper publication is like running a race. Unless you complete first, there will be no recognition for your work. Here is an interesting roadmap. Although the number of data points are less, it's just like 26,000 candidates and 14 universities. It can be helpful to understand the overall picture. From a PhD student to a doctorate, there are multiple checkposts to cross. First is the preliminary qualifying examination. In this, we have to critically review others' articles, or sometimes we may have to pass certain exams. Second one is the oral qualifying examinations, which is present our plan to the examiners, usually like 3 or 4 professors, and the final one is the last defense survivor. There are again like negative outcomes as well. People are awarded like MPhil or masters, and it says like 20% doesn't complete PhD. And I think like the data is not representative. What I heard is like the failure is like the percentage is more compared to the 20%. Next is an interesting slide on the shape of your PhD. Here, the x-axis represents time and the y-axis represents our expectations. In this, by the time we join our PhD, we all will have a huge expectation. We'll be able to do this, we'll be able to publish in this, and getting this and getting that award and many more. That's what people call it a honeymoon phase. Slowly in time, in few months after you join your PhD, you will really be able to understand the difficulties and slowly our expectations will reduce. And that's what people call as disillusionment. And with time, maybe in your year 2 or year 3, you can start seeing the light at the end of the road. You can see a slope of enlightenment, and by the time like year 4, you will be able to produce some research articles or conference proceedings, and your expectations will go almost like constant or maybe like slightly increasing over there. That's what they call it as plateau of productivity. Next is again a small graph on the variation of confidence or motivation over time. Again, like you can see like 4 different phases. You can say like year 1, year 2, 3, and 4. At year 1, it will be very difficult to mingle with all the people over there. When you go for PhD, you will come up with people, you will be competing with multiple people, irrespective of their age and their achievements. So when I joined for direct PhD, I used to compete with people from who has their masters, who has some few years of industrial experience, and many years of industrial experience as well. So the first year will be like very critical. We will undergo academic rigor. Then by year 2, we will find out a way to survive in this society. Then by year 3, we will start progressing. And by year 4 and 5, we'll start accelerating our academic success. I think that's enough for the research work. I'll start with other important tasks, which are teaching and mentoring. Teaching, as you all know, is an art. We should be a perfect example of an interdisciplinary project. We should be technically strong, innovative, caring, and sensible. We should be passionate about our work and should be able to work with students of different mindsets and skill sets. We should always teach the students and lecture by stating the facts. Keep them updated as well so that they can pass on the knowledge to the next generation. There are multiple teaching methods and philosophies, but I'll cover that in another session. In addition to research and teaching, we also need to contribute to the university and the society in different aspects. It includes like peer reviewing of journal papers and conference proceedings, organizing multiple conferences, serving in department committees, postdoctoral committees, PhD committees, and many more. That's all about the life as an academic person. So let's look at a roadmap. First step in the career is always to complete your bachelor's degree. Then, once you finish your bachelor's, you will be given with different options, whether to join an industry. If it's an industry, are you willing to go for a public sector one, or a private sector one, or an NGO, or a startup, or you want to go for an entrepreneurship. If you are looking for an academic one, you can go for a master's. Again, in master's, there are different directions, like research-based, coursework-based, MBAs, and many others, and PhD as well. Even after your master's, you will again come up with the same mindset, like whether we have to go for industry, academia, and so on. So the only advice is like if you are really interested in academia, go for an PhD or masters. And PhD is not the end. There are again like some more track, like we have to go for like a professorship or a industrial person, and after that it's like postdoc is a transition between PhD and professorship. So there are multiple categories in professorship as well. It can either be a lecturer or a research assistant professor or a full-time assistant professor, and many more categories. Now, we also need to understand the job markets. There are various positions, as I said earlier: entrepreneurship, startups, industry, R&D, professorship, and many more. When you look at the figure over here, like 47% of people go for early career research, 53 goes for career outside science, and in this early career research, like 17% goes for non-university research, industry or government. In that again, like 26% go back to outside science. 3.5% find a permanent research position. And among that, just 0.5% get a position as a faculty. So you can get an overall picture on how difficult it is to get a professorship and how much effort to be put in to pursue a career in academia. Next is an interesting chart on academic job markets. In this, the x-axis represents the year, and I was unable to find the last 10-year data. So in this, the y-axis left side represents the cumulative number in thousands, and right side represents the annual number. So we can see like two different colors. One is the orange one, and the other one is the blue one. Orange is the faculty positions, and the blue is the PhDs awarded. We can clearly see like the growth in academic positions is very little compared to the number of PhDs awarded each year. So we should always keep this in mind. Like 5,000 positions are opening every year, and 35,000 candidates are available, getting awarded every year. So we have to be competitive in this environment to succeed in academia. As this particular slide says, like no one can predict the future in any way. Like we have to think of innovative ideas and work on it. After some time, when we try to publish the work, we might find others that had already done the same work. COVID, for example, it had affected everyone in all aspects of our life. For students and in general, the people in academia was not able to achieve what they had planned earlier. They may not be able to do the experiments, unable to access labs. Many were stressed, but it's okay to accept the new reality. Nowadays, the advertisements for faculty positions, they are giving relaxations for those who apply, like relaxations in the academic achievements or the number of papers, mainly because of this COVID situation. People think that jobs in academia is rewarding. It is rewarding indeed, but they also have to undergo several disappointments and failures. But only those who work in academia know about the struggles they face, sacrifices they make, and the pressure it takes to be in that position, as well as to be successful. Yet it's a highly rewarding journey if you want to pursue a career in academia. There are many things in the modern day-to-day life which can shift our focus from work. Social media, movies, and many are some examples. We should have fun in our life, and we should have fun in our work as well. We should make sure that the advancements in digital world are beneficial to our life. We always should have like a self-control and discipline over the things we do in order to be successful in life. These are all some of the tips I would provide, and I'm trying to follow as well. We should always pick up the fundamental knowledge. We should always pick up our writing skills and pick up our communication skills. People in industry, people in academia is an international community. We cannot always stick to our mother tongue. We should always be having a common language to talk with people from different domains and different places. Then we should again pick up our advanced skills and knowledge, join esteemed professional societies like ASC, American Society for Civil Engineers, APSC, Academy of Pavements, Science and Engineering, should grow our networks, build up credit with others. We should always get things done ahead of time. If we know something, we should do it as soon as possible and write it and publish it. We shouldn't delay it. There will always be someone who is also doing the same kind of research at this current competitive environment. We should always be curious about other fields as well. We cannot limit our curiosity to just civil engineering or pavement engineering. We should also be interested in different areas like astrology, physics, biomedical, and many more. We can always get a spark, academic spark from different groups, different departments, and never stop learning and never stop thinking. And during this tough times, COVID situation, we should always pay attention to our well-being as well. As everyone says, like learning is always a process and not an event. It's always like a hard work can always lead us to certain areas. So this is actually an interesting curve which I paint, interesting picture. I got it from PhD comics. They prepare the grad school board game. I know you guys are in the first year of your bachelor's. I'm just throwing this for the knowledge. It's actually a fun for all ages. People, you can find people who are doing PhD at age of 45 or 50. Maybe you can have a look at it when you leave this thing. There are multiple good things from PhD comics. Thanks to PhD comics and high impact PhD memes, I was able to compile the different memes and different pictures from many of the people who prepared these kind of memes and studies over there. I think that's all from my side. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for inviting.